It turns out that Greece and Canada and Australia all got out of Group A, and Spain was the one
That's
that was
right, because
left
Greece
out.
is the wild card.
Yes.
That's right. Spain needed to win that game. It's an interesting tiebreaker scenario for Group A because Canada went 3-0, but then you had three teams that won one game each in Australia, Greece, and Spain. So even though the way that the tiebreaker worked is that it was based on the point differential only between those teams in the games that they played each other. So what you did against Team Canada didn't matter at all because they weren't part of the tiebreaker. And so that was actually the way that Spain was really hurt because they had a particularly bad game against Australia. So even though they had beaten Greece and they had played Canada pretty close, that fact of that bad game versus Australia hurt their tiebreaker point differential. Which was really, I think, rough and maybe is something that they might look at when it comes to the tiebreaker rules for next year. Not that there's a huge gap in like the quality of Team Spain versus Team Greece. But I think the Team Spain is just always a tough out, and they would have been, just as worthy of a quarterfinals team as Greece. But that's also what made that game with Team Canada so competitive is that actually, if Spain had won that game, they would have just won the group outright
Yeah.
and been in the quarterfinal. But because they lost it, no margin between Spain and Canada in that game um, would have helped them, in
Yeah.
in advancing. So that was really tough for them. But Greece is happy
Hmm.
because the fact that Serbia beat South Sudan meant that South Sudan was not a wild card because they would have, I think, if South Sudan had won that game versus Serbia, they would have had the tiebreaker with Greece to move on to the quarterfinals as the wild card as well. A lot of like interesting little like gamification
Hmm.
rules in this case. So it was interesting just kind of watching Team Serbia that afternoon and thinking like Giannis is cheering Jokic
Yeah.
on real hard right now because it's like, buddy, I need you to come through for me. Uh,
Yeah. I hope
I wonder if
Giannis.
any of them were in the arena.
Oh, yeah, that'd be funny.
Anyway, let's talk about the bracket because, like you said, Team Serbia is on the same side of the bracket as Team USA. They can't play each other in the quarterfinals because they were in the same group. But Team USA also, like, they are a super high seed. So the top seeds in the tournament are USA and Germany. So they get to play the two wildcard teams, which in this case were Greece and Brazil. I will say that the quarterfinals still have some upset potential, but there is a clear favorite in every single one
Every
of these
game.
games, right? USA obviously going to be the favorite over Team Brazil, Canada over Team France, and Germany over Greece. I do think that Serbia is a favorite over Australia. However, there are certain aspects of this matchup that leave me thinking like this is not a code red, but like has upset potential. Australia's offense is really good. They play fast. They spread you out. They like to shoot a lot. They have Patty Mills. I was not impressed with the way that Team Serbia was guarding Australia for the most part when they played each other in exhibition play before the Olympics started. But and Serbia lost that game. It was close though. Serbia lost that game and they were missing a lot of players. So
Yeah.
Jokic played, but I believe Bogey was out. I believe Marinkovic was out. I'm not sure if Dobric played. Dobric is, I believe, starting for Serbia right now. So, you had Guduric, who I think did fine in that role. But it also meant that everybody on the bench also had to move up a spot in the rotation, right? So that's just something to keep in mind for that matchup. And again, I wasn't impressed with the defense, particularly in transition. I thought like, okay, like Serbia needs like these guys need to get back. They need to get in formation because Australia loves to play fast. We've talked about this in our Olympic preview, how Josh Giddey, but not just Josh Giddey, puts a big emphasis on getting the ball up the floor as quickly as possible in every possession. And it's just how Australia plays, and it's a difficult style to guard, right? It's the same reason that like Serbia is a really good team when they do decide to play in transition, which they don't do with high frequency like Australia does. But that's just something I would be wary of. although Serbia will have like the size advantage, I think they'll have an overall talent advantage, not just because of Jokic, but because of all of the players that are very skilled on that team. But Australia's got some athletes, and yeah, I think if Serbia can strangle pace, they should be fine in that game. But if they can't, it's going to be a nail biter.
Yeah, it's a good point. And this is single game elimination. It's high stakes. Not to bring up the old game two of Nuggets versus the Wolves, but sometimes you can just melt down in a high stakes moment. So anything can happen. But like you said, there are favorites. I also am thinking about how many of these teams actually played each other in exhibition, and is it only Serbia and Greece? It's just
As
interesting
far as
because
I know.
we were talking about Serbia, South Sudan, and you can gain some things in hindsight of maybe we should have done this more, maybe we should have gone to this action more, or, called more plays to get
Right.
more buckets in this scenario. I don't know how much can really be gleaned from this exhibition game where they were missing players, but at least it's something. You can learn something and just you're more familiar. So it's kind of interesting that they played in exhibition and they're both pretty good teams. It's not like Australia is horrible or anything and they're getting outclassed. I was wondering though if Canada and France was like maybe the closest
So here's
game.
my thing with the Canada France matchup. I think behind Serbia, Australia, maybe understandably because they Canada and Serbia aren't the top seeds. I think that this game has upset potential. We talked about how Wemby is the reason that France is a country that or a team that you think could theoretically medal at this competition, like realistically, like you could see the path.
Yeah.
The reason I think Canada in particular is vulnerable to an upset here is that their offense just has no flow to it versus a team like France that they know it. They're heavily reliant on their defense because their offense also like sputters for long stretches in large part because they are more limited in their guard play than these other teams. But sometimes like they have guys who can create their own shot that can create some timely buckets for themselves and for others. They have Wemby, who is kind of a nightmare for a lot of different players to try to deal with. I do think that Canada has the wing depth potentially to at least mitigate Wemby's impact, but you never know how France is going to decide to actually use him. Canada's offense, hot mess. France's offense, also a hot mess. But France's defense, it's Rudy, it's Wemby, it's Bilal Koulibaly, it's Nicholas Batum. There's just a lot of length on the court. It makes like running a half court offense incredibly difficult. They're going to force a lot of turnovers. I think both teams are going to try to do basically the same things. The sort of difference between the two being that Canada's going to struggle to finish defensive possessions because they don't have the same size on the front line that France does in Rudy and Wemby. And Wemby is the rebounder that he is, which is like kind of a question mark really at this point because we only saw him play at the five for like half a season. He's playing at the five for France for large stretches now. We even saw in the last group play game versus Germany that Ruby didn't start in the second half, so they were staggering him more. I don't know if that was to make Wemby's minutes more efficient or to make the bench minutes less, like non-Wemby minutes less atrocious. Um, but that's just going to be something to watch. Is France going to struggle to rebound because Rudy is like their main guy, or is Canada going to struggle more because of like they have their own size limitations and all of that. So that's going to be it's interesting that the both teams kind of have the same weaknesses, except you'd think that Canada would be able to muster up a little bit more consistent offense because they should have better guard play than France. And it's not just SGA, obviously. It's not even just Jamal. They also have Andrew Nemhard, who we shouted out already, that are able to create both their own shots, but also for others. So that's going to be what I'm watching in this game is like who makes the other team's offense look nastier. And that game has really
Right.
high potential to be just ugly.
Yeah, I feel like on like just I would assume France's defense would be able to impact what Canada is doing on offense more than the other way around, as you're saying.
Yeah.
So it is going to be really close. I'm feeling confident Serbia is going to win, but your points are making me realize it's maybe closer than I would have thought just initially. But Canada and France, I still am looking like I'm. I don't even know who I was gonna pick initially. Nemhard though has been playing really well, and just I'll just say it now before we don't have time to talk about it that his contract's looking better and better as this Olympics go on. And while I've said I'm not going to let this Olympics determine how I feel about Jamal, I am going to be maybe hypocritical and say I'm going to let it affect how I feel about Nemhard because he's looking awesome. And
Well,
yeah,
I think Nemhard's contract looked like a steal even before the Olympics because he
yeah.
looked great last regular season, particularly after I think it was after they traded Bruce that Nemhard starting in that shooting guard position, basically. Having that secondary ball handler next to Tyrese, and he can also, run certain units when Halliburton was out. Obviously, the Pacers have lots and lots of guards. Please give us one of them. Please let it be TJ McConnell. But yeah, that $18 million a year extension is just a huge steal. And I'm like, why aren't our players have, terrible agents like some of
Yeah.
these guys?
Yeah, losing
Um,
KCP for that amount of money, regardless of how good he is, but like to keep a role player like that, especially a guard and a guard who can score like Nemhard can, for that amount of money
with
is
kind of
just
all-star potential, like he's in the Eastern Conference. I could see Nemhard making an
yeah, that's
all-star
true.
game, all-star team in the next few years for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
depending on how the development goes, but I think regardless, like that number in a couple of years is gonna look like it's like this
oh,
is
an absolute
absurd,
steal.
like
Absolute
Derek
steal.
White level upsetting
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah. I mean, it is. Like that's
Yeah,
what he's literally making Derek White money
money right
now
now.
before the salary cap jumps.
That's
Like
true.
I think it's just like malpractice, frankly.
Mhm.
And I think some of these guys need to, just kind of shop around and try to make sure that their agents aren't, um,
Yeah. I
you
really
know,
wanna go back and look
terrible.
at that draft with him because I think the Wolves could have drafted him,
Well,
and I was
everybody could have because he
he
went
was
31st, right?
oh, okay, yeah. Oh, that was a mistake. I remember watching him on Gonzaga, when I was watching Strother on Gonzaga and Jalen Suggs and stuff, and I was like, I like Nemhard then too. So I've still been kind of following him even in the NBA. And his younger brother is on Gonzaga right now. So I wonder
Oh.
if little Nemhard can be good someday. I don't think he doesn't look as good as Andrew Nemhard does back on Gonzaga at this point in college, but who knows? Interesting to watch him.
It just occurred to me that we have two Zags for Team Canada right now, and Nemhard and
Olynyk,
Kelly
yeah.
Olynyk, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
So Will, before we wrap this up, I just wanted to ask you about who do you think has the most to lose going into the knockout rounds?
Most to lose. Well, USA is such a heavy favorite that you would almost say them, but I kind of think they don't have that much to lose because they're just so stacked. If they
But I
lose,
mean, like if they lost,
if they lost, they have the most to lose because it's just like
it's got to be
absurd.
them, right? Like it
Yeah.
has to be Team USA.
But I just think they aren't going to lose. I think it's like
Right.
certain that they're going to win. So I'm like, now my mind's going to like in this scenario, who
Mm.
really has the most to lose
Who
besides
realistically has
them?
the most to lose? Yeah.
Yeah, Germany is like the defending world champs,
I
but
think Germany has demonstrated pretty clearly that they're the second
they're
best
really
team
good.
in
Yeah.
this tournament.
So it's like if they kind of show a semblance of what we know they are, I think that's like a mission accomplished. I don't know. I just even if they don't make it to the final, I think they've still looked pretty good. And in a single game elimination where anything can happen, how much can your reputation be tarnished in a single game? Serbia has a lot of high hopes with Jokic. France is the home country. They have the phenom in Wemby, so
I don't think France is one of the countries that I expect to medal. I think they could,
mhm.
realistically even, but I would kind of put so if I had tiers here, I expect the USA to win gold. After that, there are 2 medals, right? Silver and bronze, and I expect those 2 medals to go to 2 of Germany, Serbia, Canada, but I could see France and, like, an outside chance really for Australia. I think actually France has a better chance of medaling than Australia. I hope that doesn't come back to bite me. And then I don't see Greece or Brazil medaling at all.
No,
So those are
no.
like the three tiers.
It might be Serbia just because Jokic is like a once in a lifetime player who's going to be your best shot at medaling, who in the next 4 years is going to be 34,
Well,
like,
hopefully we have more players by then.
yeah,
Can I just say though that I think it helps that Serbia has a particular view of basketball and team basketball in that they wouldn't put it all on one player unless it was just like the worst game that he's ever had, basically, is what would have to happen for it to be put on one player. Like I think it would be like it was on the team because it
yeah,
was like I think that the fact that he didn't play for the national team the last couple of or like it was last year and then like he played in Eurobasket the year before that, but then the summer before that he didn't, and they were upset that he didn't even like join the team.
yeah,
But I think it would be less about like blaming. Like, I mean, you even last summer, the guys that were on the national team, they got silver. Like they didn't win gold in a tournament where Team USA was out, right? You'd think like, oh my gosh, like this is our chance to like win the gold. They lost to Germany in the gold medal game. But my understanding from just like perusing online is that they were still hailed as basically like heroes for like getting that far in the tournament, obviously qualifying them for the Olympics, getting the silver medal. Like it was good. That's why like Bogey is such like a hero there and all of that. And maybe all of that was just because Jokic didn't play and they were able to do it anyway. But I don't my my impression isn't that it's on Jokic to deliver a gold medal. I think like is the perception there, and maybe there will be Serbians in the comments correcting me like no, they have to win this year, or at least get silver, whatever it is. It's more like we wanted to play with the team and we want the team to play, and obviously like they want the team to advance as far as possible and medal, but I don't think that if they don't, I don't know that it's going to be put on one player.
and I'm not even saying that they would put it on Jokic, and that is a good point. I think all Serbians are going to feel happy. I think they're putting their best foot
Don't
forward.
tell Serbians how they're going
I
to
don't know how Serbians are going to feel, but I would argue that Serbians are putting, or Team Serbia is putting their best foot forward with what they have, with the coaching, with the players, with Jokic. Team USA plays into this too. Like, what is the realistic expectation that you can upset them with this team? Does that then,
feel.
for every country, you just say, like, hey, what we're going to do, give it your best shot, and, you don't have that much to lose just because the United States exists? I guess I was more hinting at the opportunity that Serbia has. This might be the best Serbian
Sure.
basketball player ever. And it's like, so just by that fact alone, having him on the national team, maybe it doesn't line up with the other talent. Like you had this transcendent player, the rest of the team's not like matching to go all the way and get the gold. So I could see like a future in where just the overall team is more talented just by like nature of growing the game and developing the game in Serbia and all that. So
Oh,
like,
you're just talking about taking advantage of Jokic's prime, effectively.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
But like the same mindset like Nuggets fans have right now.
Yes.
Is what you're
So it's
talking
like
about.
in the next Olympics, he's going to be 34. I don't even know if he's going to be playing. I'm hoping he will be. I think he will be. But it's just, yeah, taking advantage of the opportunity of Jokic's prime. He's coming off one of the most memorable stretches in NBA history with this like 4 MVP caliber seasons in the championship. You got to do the best you can, which I think they're doing. So it's like you can't really ask for more.
I do
So
think that they're doing that because even like versus South Sudan, I didn't see a single minute where it was a Jokic plus Milutinov lineup, which was very nice to see.
yeah, can't do that. Yeah. I guess USA just has the most to lose. Let's just say that. And they're not going to. So let's do our predictions.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. All right. I'm gonna pick Germany versus Greece. If you'd like. Okay. And then I'm going to pick Canada versus France.
Okay.
But this is, I think, the closest quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Team USA over Brazil, for sure.
Yep.
And then Serbia over Australia. I think they're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
For the final, it's probably going to be Team USA versus Germany because I just think Germany's going to figure it out versus Canada. Have a bit more versatility. And then
Well, really quickly, what happened with, because initially you had Serbia winning over USA when we did our predictions with Voya, and
well,
obviously
that
we
was when it was the final. Actually, I had the USA getting upset earlier by
Oh
France.
yeah, by France. Wow.
Hey, you talked about all this NBA caliber talent that France has.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, like we hadn't really seen all we had seen was a couple exhibition games.
I mean, yeah, like this is my like real prediction bracket instead of my wish casting one that doesn't
Okay.
even know who makes the
So it's
quarterfinals.
just a different mindset and approach with these.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, for
okay.
sure, for sure. And then in the bronze medal game, we're gonna have Canada versus Serbia, which is where we get to see the heavyweight matchup of Jokic versus Jamal Murray. So that should be an
Yes.
interesting game. I know Voya said that Serbia is not good in bronze medal games, so that wouldn't be great. But I also think that we talked about Canada's issues with size, but we also talked about the athleticism advantage they may have over Serbia. That could actually be a really interesting matchup. I'm not sure what the Team USA Serbia game would look like. Again, this would be the third time that they play each other in just a few weeks span, because they did play obviously in group play, and before that they played in the exhibitions. But I think that all the same problems for Serbia would crop up. In particular, the athleticism disadvantage and the bench overall. The Germany Canada matchup, I think Germany is just a different tier of team than Canada by a bit, I think, because of the size. But Canada may have an opportunity in the non-Schroeder minutes to take advantage of how kind of gnarly Germany's offense looks with Schroeder off the floor. But he might just play 40 minutes in that game. World Cup Finals MVP Dennis Schroeder is probably not going to let Germany miss an opportunity to get to the finals.
But you'd ultimately then have USA winning the whole thing.
Yes, winning gold.
There's not really a slot on this graphic for a winner, but I'll just put a big American flag right there. Yeah, I was trying to think because I really want the Canada Serbia bronze medal game just because that would be so fun to watch Jamal versus Jokic. And I would love to see them like shaking hands after the game or like Jokic pulling some kind of prank on Jamal just for that moment. But, I would love to see Serbia get the gold medal, somehow upset the United States, but I just don't see it. Canada, now I'm like, could they like just somehow pull a miracle and go to the final? Because SGA just,
I don't think it would be that out of the question. I think
yeah.
Germany is a better team, but it's not by a lot. It's like a half tier,
hmm And in
like
a
a half
single
step up.
game, anything can kind of happen.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe Germany, like I think they have a better offense and shot diet overall than Canada, but maybe they just go cold from three.
yeah, exactly. Like Canada
Or
could just have a really hot game and they just win that game. Could be interesting. Just in case Jamal's watching this, I'm gonna pick Canada.
what? You should pick against him if you want him to be motivated.
I just want him to like me.
I don't know if Jamal likes anybody right now.
I'm picking you, Jamal. I'm picking you
That's
to go to
interesting.
the
So if
final.
I want to ask you then, if we had Canada versus Serbia in the bronze medal game, who would you pick?
Ah, gosh, I don't know. That's a toss up based on
I
like
know.
what I've
I think it's an
seen.
interesting matchup.
Yeah, based on what I've seen from both of these teams, I still feel like Serbia would win. That'd be like my initial gut instinct is to still go with Serbia in that matchup just
I
because of
think they'd be
Jokic.
playing really hard in that game to make sure they medaled.
I would think so too. I know Voya said they're bad in bronze medal games, but like get a medal for Serbia and Powell and Olynyk against Jokic. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know, it's a
not
little rough. I'd probably still
right.
pick Serbia, and then a Germany Serbia like bronze medal game somehow. I'd probably still just pick Serbia just because I like Jokic, but that is like another who knows. That really could
Yeah.
be go anyway.
The matchups get a little bit more, of a toss up as you get closer to the end, as it should be in a good tournament. Okay, so your prediction is
USA in the gold. How about that for spicy? And then Canada silver medal, and then I'll go Serbia bronze.
all right. And mine is USA gold medal, Germany silver medal, and Serbia bronze. So
Right.
yeah, one of those top four teams is going to be left on the outs, at least one.
We're almost to 500 subscribers. So to those of you who've already
Yay.
subscribed, thank you so much. We love you. And if you haven't yet, please consider doing so. And like the video if you're watching, send our episode to your friends and tell everyone about it. We really appreciate you guys listening and commenting. Let us know who you think might win the tournament if it's not the USA. Yeah, thank you so much for listening. And remember that winning is fun and losing sucks.
Big time.